Very honored to meet you. I am very honored to meet you all today to celebrate the French project with our partners from Bhutan, Cambodia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, as well as European partners from Bulgaria, Poland, Hungary, Turkey, and I'm very pleased also colleagues from EU headquarters, the European Commission, are also present. Higher education is becoming more and more international in nature, and this is a very good thing. The French project title stands, it's rather long, but I think I should say it has a reason. It stands for Furthering International Relation Capacities and Intercultural Engagement to Nurture Campus Diversity and to Support Internationalization and Home. A long name, but an apt one. In the same way, Erasmus, the name given to the Dutch humanist who was the greatest scholar of the Northern Renaissance, in fact, in the 16th century, meant literally beloved in Latin. It is related to the Greek, you would expect me to say that, Erasmus, which means lovely, pleasant. So Erasmus is the name of the great philosopher and enlightened wanderer who studied all over Europe. And you can see already the many cultures linked into his own name. His teaching career during Europe's Renaissance took him away from his native Rotterdam to universities in countries that are now Belgium, France, Italy, Switzerland, and the UK. While he was teaching, he was learning from this immersion in these very different cultures. However, for hundreds of years, this was something open to the very, very lucky few. Students and academics and universities are reaching out beyond their borders in the quest for knowledge. A period of study abroad is becoming a standard part now, today, of many students' experiences. It is almost impossible to think of any research project that operates entirely within strictly a national context. Staff exchange between different seats of learning has long been the part of the academic sector's activities. In fact, since the first universities were set up. So our own Erasmus, what we were inspired in the European Union, started in 1987 as a program for student exchange between the universities only in the European Union countries. This was an important time for Europe, because if we think and we go back in 1987, it was the moment that we were taking our big steps on the way to become a union before we were the European communities. With an ambitious plan in 1992 for a Europe without borders, what we cherish today. To make that a reality, we needed people to reach out across the borders that had represented barriers for centuries. We needed countries to understand each other better. And this is the political side of Erasmus. Because besides the academic value, it is a chance for young people to immerse themselves in another culture and increase their understandings of other countries and ways of thinking. These are highly valued skills, and this is what also the European integration project was built upon. So now for some years, the European Union has funded a truly global mobility partnerships between, on the one hand, the European countries and its universities and countries worldwide. This is what we call the Erasmus Plus partnerships, that they exist between the European universities and countries worldwide, including all the Asian countries represented today at our meeting. So just to give you some data over the 2014 to 2020 period, These partnerships, together with our Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree scholarships, have brought over 3,500 Asian students and staff to Europe every year. And Asian universities have hosted more than 2,000 Europeans annually. So besides this, Erasmus Plus also funds cooperation projects where universities from Europe and other world regions can work together to develop new curricula, develop staff training, forge links with the employers and the society. And they also help prepare policy reforms in countries. And we see it even here in Malaysia, how we seek and we tap, including also with the European businesses that are represented with Eurochan, on the Erasmus possibilities and our partnerships that we have with the Malaysian universities. So Friends is one of these cooperation projects, and it looks, it is crucial part for international exchange. What we call and what we want to see, it is the intercultural experience. We all know the advantages of the intercultural experience, though it may be difficult to bring this down. So we are very interested in the work of your projects and the ways we can share your results and make them available to a wider range of stakeholders and audiences. How we can make those intercultural experience for an individual, but also for the university, even more valuable. This is a good question to answer. And how we can spread this experience that it benefits, and there is no doubt. I mean, it benefits the students during their academic time and after. The students who do not travel, we bring, and especially now with the pandemic, we learn all to work via remotely, but it brings the internationalization at home. The academics, the new experiences in teaching techniques, materials. And of course, the universities, their international relation officers, the cooperation at faculty level, research spin-offs, and so on. So we are very glad that you have invited us today, the youth delegation, and thank you for your kind words and introduction. To take part in your meeting, and I very much look forward to learning more about the project results. Thank you, and terima kasih.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Mr. Michalis Rokas, for that inspiring speech. I'm sure all of us that are present today will be more motivated to continue and run this project until the end, which is next year, and hopefully we can share the results to the EU delegation to Malaysia, and hopefully it will be also shared within the EU delegation and also the EU commissions. And thank you very much again for your presence, Mr. Michalis Rokas. And now I would like to invite Mr. Adrian Veal directly from Brussels to continue our discussion on internationalization, the key initiatives by the EU, and also to tell us how these educational exchanges can become an affirmative action to youths that is living in Asia, and how they can benefit from all these programs that is sponsored by the EU under Erasmus Plus program. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Adrian.
Thank you very much, Ronald, and thank you, Michalis, for the introduction to why Erasmus sort of cooperation matters, and the strong role that we see for this intercultural aspect of exchange that is the focus of the Friends project. So I've been asked to talk in a little more detail about the way that Erasmus Plus supports this sort of cooperation and this sort of mobility between Europe and Asia. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to suggest that we could have a bit of a discussion about this intercultural aspect. We, as Michalis said, we appreciate the importance of this intercultural dimension to studying in another country, or to cooperating with another country, but it's difficult to really see how we can exploit that better. You know, we need your understanding of what the intercultural experience is, to enable us to make the most of it within the projects that we fund, especially now where we are looking at changes in the way that we deliver education. The pandemic has been a major reason for that, but in fact already, you know, before the pandemic, the education sector was looking at ways of moving with the times, as it always has done, to see new methods of delivery, digital. There is the question of artificial intelligence, obviously, in the background. So let's have a discussion a little bit about how intercultural can remain an important aspect while we're at this tipping point, if you like, of the way that we deliver education. So first, a little presentation. I hope that you can now see the presentation. Okay, so Erasmus Plus is support for primarily higher education cooperation, but it's also about intercultural cooperation, and that's what I really want to talk about today. Erasmus Plus is a big program. It's a program that supports cooperation in education, in training, in youth and sport, and it does that through funding projects like your own, and it funds scholarships, so it funds mobility for students and for staff. And while it started off as a program for cooperation between European countries to build that European project, as Michalis said, it has also a very strong international dimension. So cooperation between Europe and other parts of the world, including Asia, mainly on a regional basis. And so we are now at the point where we have launched a new program. When I say new, it's actually, there's a lot of continuity. So in the 2021 to 27 program, we are building on what we did in 2014 and 2020. There are more international opportunities, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little more. But first, let's just position Erasmus Plus a little bit. It's a program funded by the European Union, and so we should see where it fits in if you like, the wider landscape of the EU's priorities and our other policies in education and external relations. So Erasmus Plus is meeting, there are 6 main priorities that govern everything that the EU does. And 3 of these are very pertinent to Erasmus Plus cooperation. One of these priorities is a stronger Europe in the world. So reaching out to other countries, setting Europe up as a partner, reinforcing that role as Europe as a strong partner for cooperation with the rest of the world, economic, social, people to people. And then 2 other aspects are very important. Obviously, the green transition, the climate emergency is pushing that agenda right to the top. So the Green Deal is Europe's answer to cutting emissions and to encouraging green behavior throughout the whole of society. The other big challenge we face is digital. So digital skills, digital landscape, the technology we use, and the skills we will need to use that technology. So those all feed into what we're doing through Erasmus in terms of international cooperation. Then Erasmus is one of 3 big priorities for the EU's education policy. We work through a sort of method of cooperation with member states. So we don't, as the European Union, we don't set education policy, but we bring our member states together to align their own national and sometimes regional education policies and programs. And we will be strengthening that cooperation through a new ambitious European education area, which we want to set up by 2025. And this will work on quality, inclusion, digital and green transitions, as I said, and the importance of higher education. Now, that European education area, as the name suggests, will be something for the EU, but the changes that are underway inside Europe will also affect the way that Europe cooperates with countries outside Europe. So these big work areas will also be of benefit to our relations with other parts of the world. And we also have a specific focus on digital, so increasing the skills. These are at all levels of education, from school through university to adult education, ensuring that skills are there, the technology is rolled out to keep pace in the education sector, so it can keep pace with the rest of the economy. And this is all put together in a digital education action plan. So these are all going on in the background, if you like, while we roll out the Erasmus Plus opportunities that I'm going to talk about in a moment. And then just to, the EU has policies and priorities for its cooperation with other parts of the world, as I said, mainly on a regional basis. So we have a new approach for cooperation with the wider Indo-Pacific region. We have regional cooperation priorities for sub-regions like ASEAN, and there are priorities that govern the way that the EU reaches out to individual countries in Asia, such as Malaysia, Bhutan, the countries that are represented within your project. And that's managed largely through the EU delegations. Erasmus Plus works on the basis of cooperation, and we've got a lot of jargon to get through now, but we largely, every Erasmus Plus project will be based on cooperation between these European countries and other countries everywhere throughout the world. So these countries, we're calling them, it's slightly more than the EU member states. You'll notice there are other countries involved in Erasmus Plus besides the EU 27. We have, for example, Norway, Iceland, Turkey, Serbia. There are some countries that pay, let's put it that way, to take part in the Erasmus Plus program. So those countries can also be partners in projects with countries like Malaysia, Cambodia, Bhutan, and indeed other countries, the US, South America, Africa. So most Erasmus Plus projects are based on a partnership between these partner countries and these European countries. Sorry, that's a bit blurry, that map, but just to reiterate the fact that it's the EU 27, and sadly, that does not include the UK. The UK is no longer an EU member state, and it's no longer one of the associated countries to Erasmus Plus. So in the new program, the UK cannot be a partner for your cooperation in the future. What do I mean by that cooperation? Well, there's two sorts of cooperation. If you like, the mobility side, the benefit is mainly for the individuals, and these are the exchange programs. We call it international credit mobility. So these are the classic exchange programs between a French or a Swedish or a Greek university working with a university in Cambodia, in Vietnam, in Bolivia, in New Zealand, and together they arrange exchange for, in both directions, for their students and for their staff. Another form of mobility project, largely mobility, is the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master programs. So we have about 150 of these programs, and the EU funds scholarships for students from all over the world to take part in these joint programs. So they're interesting because they bring together different countries, different faculties in a university partnership that offers a real skills set in a particular area. So it produces graduates to carry out employment or research roles in particular fields. Then we have two types of projects which are aimed more at the institutions, the universities. One is the capacity building for higher education project. That's obviously the format under which Friends operates. So that's a partnership of universities from Europe, partnering with Asian universities, or it could be African or South American universities, for example. And they work together to develop new teaching material, staff training, university quality and management. And they can also work on policy priorities in a particular area where they can work with ministries, for example. And then we have Jean Monnet activities, a little bit of a niche at first sight, but these are programs to foster the study of EU integration at universities. Now, these projects are actually very popular outside Europe, where they tend to make the parallel between EU integration and regional integration in their part of the world. So, for example, ASEAN, what needs to happen for countries to work together more closely on a regional basis. So a quick word about each of those. International credit mobility. So the concept here is that you study part of your home degree at a university abroad. So it's a short-term type of mobility. You go abroad, you go to Italy or to Sweden. Your university sends you there. So it's based on an agreement between your university and a European university. You spend, usually it's a semester. It can be another period between 2 and 12 months, but usually you study a semester at a European university at bachelor's, master's, doctoral level, and you come back with credits for the subjects you've studied. Those credits are loaded into your home degree program, and they count towards your degree that you're awarded back home when you complete your degree. So that's the arrangement under which it happens. The Erasmus Plus program funds it contributes to your living costs while you're in Europe, and it funds your travel to and from Europe. Now these programs are managed by the European universities. So each year, European universities can apply to set up these mobility partnerships with a range of universities worldwide. Something that's new in the new program is that we will be including something called blended intensive programs. And this is a mix of online learning backed up by some intensive summer course or a residential course. So a mix of online and on-site programs that up to now have not really been possible. Joint masters, as I said, a joint integrated program at master's level is usually about 2 years that these programs last. And this consortium of universities, primarily from Europe, but possibly from other parts of the world, design and deliver this master's course, which will mean that a student will study at 2 or 3, perhaps even more countries during their period. Now, in the new program, we're trying to encourage non-European universities to take part in these programs. So you might like to spread the word about these within your university, or whether you're a student or maybe you're a staff member in a university. So lots of opportunities there. There will be a new call in the late 2021. Now, these mobility projects, we flag up the benefits for the individual. So there's a unique learning experience in Europe, which can either be a short-term experience or a degree mobility experience. So we like to think that these bring a better knowledge of Europe and its higher education. You will get to understand the country by learning a little bit of its language, by learning a lot about its culture, and you will have an intercultural experience. And this, again, coming back to your project, is why we're interested in how you tackle and map out, if you like, that intercultural experience. What happens? How can we foster that? How can we make that intercultural experience even better? And part of that intercultural experience is actually much recognized by employers. So a period of study abroad, many surveys have shown that employers look for that and recognize that as a big bonus on your CV. Coming back to the other types of projects, capacity building, I think the partners in the project who are here today know that part of the program, and we'll continue on a very similar basis when we launch the first calls under the new program at the end of this year. We will keep 2 main categories of project. So one type of project mostly benefiting the universities, and one type of project looking at policy reform, structural reform projects. But you will see that we have split the university-focused projects into 2 types. So one is a smaller type of project where we're looking at smaller scope projects focused on newcomers to the program, perhaps on least developed countries more, really boosting their skills for internationalization, perhaps starting on a process of internationalization. And then we have larger projects, which we're calling partnerships for innovation. And these are for maybe more experienced projects, more experienced universities, if you like, but looking at the way that they can foster innovation in the way they operate, the way they link with the rest of the world, the teaching that they develop, and their governance. So 3 types of project will be launched in the new call. And Jean Monnet activities, as I said, focusing on European integration, but through modules, through professorships, through courses, and often these will help students in third countries, in countries outside Europe, understand Europe better. You know, what is the European approach to trade policy or to foodstuff safety? So it's not only the the law and the politics aspect of European studies. They can be much wider. Now, a little bit about Erasmus Plus and Asia. you will see from this graph that, ultimately, the budget that we have for cooperation with the rest of the world is largely the same as the previous programming period. What you will see from this chart is a big reshuffle. There is a lot more priority given to what we call sub-Saharan Africa, so SSA in that chart. It should be a bit clearer, but a lot more focus given to Africa. So a sort of trebling of the amount of support that we'll give to Africa, and an increase in the Western Balkans. For the rest, to compensate for that increase, we don't have extra money. So unfortunately, we have had to reshuffle the funding, and there will actually be less money for Asia. So this means that we are a bit more limited in what we can fund. And some of the opportunities that were available in the previous program, such as youth cooperation activities, are no longer possible for Asia. That's why I've been concentrating on higher education. And I think it's only fair that we sort of manage your expectations in that regard, that we will be continuing with what we did in the previous program, but when it comes to regions like Asia and South America, we will actually have less funding to go round. But the continuity that we'll have in the new program is beneficial in the sense that we can make use of previous projects. This is an important part of Erasmus+. We don't only want the project itself to benefit. We want there to be a wider impact. And this is something that we require when we ask projects to put together proposals. They have to have a strategy for how are they going to reach out to the wider world. And part of this strategy is the visibility that they give to their project. And I just like to explain the project results platform. Let me see if I can be really clever and share my screen. So there is a project results platform. There is a search function that is quite intuitive. Here, I've done a search for capacity building projects that have intercultural somewhere in their description. And you'll see we get 24 projects, different sorts of projects, some where intercultural is part of the title, some where it's mentioned in the project description. These are really useful records about projects. If we go into this one, this is actually not in Asia. Oh dear. Let's let's see if we can pick another one, or maybe there's a problem with the site. Okay, phew. So this enables you to look at all the projects. Remember, it's a project, Erasmus Plus benefits different regions. So your project is focused on Asia, but it doesn't mean that projects that are focused on other parts of the world are irrelevant. And here, for example, for the projects that have reached completion, you will have a whole section about results of the projects. So not only will you see a description of the ongoing projects, their partners, their objectives, but for the completed projects, you'll see the results. So I think this can be a useful source of inspiration, and I'd encourage you, I mean the project, but also the students taking part in the project to have a look at this, because it can help you with the work that you're doing. So the project results platform. I'd also talk about one other aspect of Erasmus Plus that might be interesting to you. This is Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange. Now, this was piloted in the previous program in the South Mediterranean region. South Mediterranean means the north of Africa and countries around the Eastern Mediterranean, such as Jordan, Syria, Palestine. And this was actually piloted because we wanted to see other ways of giving students and young people from that part of the world an intercultural experience. The situation in those countries meant that we could not have active cooperation projects. We couldn't bring students from countries like Syria, Libya, to Europe to engage in our traditional types of experience. So this virtual exchange was an attempt to recreate that sort of intercultural experience. So young people in formal education, but also outside formal education, in youth organizations, for example, could reach out and enter into a dialogue with their counterparts in European countries. In the pilot project, this was mainly managed through universities, but this Erasmus Virtual Exchange will be expanded in the new program. Unfortunately, not to Asia. As I said, we're having to limit the activities that are open to Asia, but it will be expanded to other areas surrounding the EU, to its east, to its south, and to Africa, as well as the Western Balkans. But these are interesting projects because they sought to set up this intercultural dialogue. What did they need to do to make that work using digital formats? And what was the impact? So these were partly about developing digital skills, okay, but they were also about the soft skills. What do you need to focus on to make intercultural relations work in an online format? Behind this project was also a desire to promote, critical thinking, media literacy, discussion about citizenship, which were all important aspects of our relations with that part of the world. But that's going to continue in the new program. What I wanted to do, I've really raced through that presentation of Erasmus Plus. So I've given you an idea of the way that supports cooperation with through higher education. And I've got a couple of questions. They're actually sort of personal questions that I'm interested in. But I think they would be relevant for this festival, perhaps. So it's about this switch in education. We're moving, we're not replacing face-to-face by digital, but digital will be playing more and more of a role in education, whether we like it or not. And I think what we need to do is look at how do we replicate the intercultural benefits from taking part, meeting other students face to face, going to the cafeteria, going to the restaurant at lunchtime, the student restaurant. How do we replicate that if students aren't physically together in the same place? Also, an important part of this mobility is the knock-on effects. So even for the students who don't travel, they benefit somehow. They meet the incoming students. They hear what their fellow students did. They perhaps receive lessons from incoming staff under mobility projects. So how can we also get some sort of feeling for internationalization at home through digital? And then, you know, do we need to work on this? Are these skills that we need to actually map out and teach, or do we sort of expect it to happen? I think this is something that we've seen, you know, over the past year and a half during the pandemic. We have needed to adapt the way that we work, the way that we reach out to other people, and so we've needed to learn or relearn these skills in a digital context. So are these things that you're looking at in your project, and what sort of results are you reaching, or what sort of advice could you give, in fact? So there are a few little questions that maybe could help us through a discussion period.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adrian. To start the discussion, I think in this session today, we have around 50 participants, and we have our colleagues from Bhutan. I see sharing is in this room. Colleagues from the Philippines, Malaysia. We also have our coordinating partner in Europe, Ms. Kristina Armutileva from Varna University in Bulgaria. Just to share with regards to our Friends project, one of the work project that we did in this Friends project is basically to have Intercultural Mooc that was established timely last year. So it is basically a 6 weeks online course, and the syllabus was developed with the European partners, and some of the ideas or syllabus discussed in this MOOC is basically on what is intercultural diversity, what is gender, the role of gender. We also discuss language as communication barrier, and there is also a chapter on European Union, you know, how European Union works, you know. The idea that I think why we have this intercultural MOOC is also on the concept of internationalization at home, because we realize not everyone can be physically mobile, especially those institutions in Asia. And through this project, they are provided with laptops, with facilities to facilitate all these exchanges online. So when this MOOC was launched last year in April, it was timely because that was also the time where almost everyone have to go into lockdown. And it actually helps students that lives in Asia, especially within our partners, the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and even in Bhutan, and also Cambodia, to actually understand what is intercultural, and to validate those understanding. Each of the students have to submit video. And by doing this 6 weeks MOOC and also submitting the video, and now the video is online, you can actually view the videos on YouTube, how each and every students from different parts of Asia shares their thoughts and ideas, what does intercultural means. And this is what we call intercultural passport. So when the students are ready to go for a physical mobility, they actually understand, you know, what is expected before they go for mobility. Yeah. Other than that, now we are in the part of dissemination where we engage other institutions within our region, our country particularly, where we talk about also intercultural, and we invite them to be part of this MOOC as well, because in the end, students who completed this MOOC and this digital storytelling, they will obtain credits, yeah, without going physically to Europe. Yeah, so it's basically written in their academic transcript that they have completed some sort of intercultural training. And in this year, we will be again doing a few sessions of this MOOC and digital storytelling. So it will be part of our syllabus. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little update on this project. It's supposed to end this year, but it's extended to 2022 because we could not do some of the physical aspect of this project. For example, the boot camp. We were supposed to have a boot camp in Bulgaria, but it was changed to an online boot camp where we gather all these selected students online, and they had an evening session with a European facilitator. So all the students from different countries met in this evening session, considered the leaders of this institution. And later on, we also established what you call tea house, a social space within each of this institution where students can exchange ideas and also use these facilities, the laptops, you know, the cameras to do their digital storytelling, and also to further enhance their understanding of what intercultural means. Yeah, so hopefully by next year we can complete, and maybe my colleague from other countries, maybe from Bhutan, maybe they can also share what they have achieved so far, yeah, in this project. Yeah, Christina is here.
Hi guys. Hi. Greetings from Varna, from sunny Varna. I just wanted to add to what Roland was telling about the activities that we sort of trying to introduce two types of interventions when it comes to building intercultural competence. On the one hand, we, through the MOOC and the digital storytelling component of the Intercultural Passport virtual module, we are sort of introducing a novel approach to building intercultural skills in the framework of formal education. Remember the credits the ECTS awarded through the successful completion of the two components and the award of the Intercultural Passport. These credits are actually feeding into students' curriculum at home. Most of the majority of the 12 Asian universities included have actually already established a procedure for recognizing these skills, these learning outcomes, these skills and knowledge obtained through the Intercultural Passport. Just to give you an idea, some of the partners are actually incorporating the massive online open course into already existing modules at their universities, for instance, whether it's business communication or teaching intercultural awareness in general. So our Intercultural Passport is added to already existing courses at the 12 universities. Other partners have actually built or established a new module from scratch by building on the MOOC. The MOOC is actually called Intercultural Awareness and Cultural Diversity. So partners, for instance, in the other university in Malaysia, APU, Asia Pacific University, they've established a completely new course, and actually it's being delivered through the project team members in the project. In the France team and France project. Also, we've got partners, for instance, one of the partner universities in Cambodia, where students are obtaining completing the MOOC and the digital storytelling component, and that intercultural passport is sort of automatically recognized, and this is how, as part of the students' curriculum, and this is how it's being exploited. Ronald mentioned about the current stage of dissemination. I would rather call it exploitation, because we're trying to not only spread the word, but also find possible, doable ways of incorporating this content created through the Friends on Intercultural Awareness, not only actually within the 12 universities included, but also outside, beyond those. We've got a whole work package on exploitation called Friends Beyond Friends, where we are reaching out to different stakeholders, whether it's students of other universities and spreading the word about this, the intercultural passport to them, or for instance, employers with whom we are hopefully going to organize a series of fairs, career fairs next year, that are going to be focused and will aim to highlight the importance of global skills. So intercultural awareness and competence as part of the global skill sets students need to have in order to become employable and successful on the labor market. We also are going to work with other higher education institutions, academics and non-academic staff members, higher education practitioners, etc. And last but not least, we have a very interesting component about building intercultural skills and knowledge and competence within our local communities by reaching out to communities with whether it's minorities or communities with different ethnic background, religious background, you name it. So we're trying to support intercultural development and awareness through actually getting to know better our neighbors next door, let's say, whether it's a minority living in the community or in the same cities. And we have this interesting activity of adopting a community or a minority, a local one, and helping their members to, whether it's youth members, to, become part of this academic community at the universities. This is why actually we have also the Friends Tea Houses established, which in the first place was, meant to become a social hub, a social space. Obviously now, because of the COVID pandemic, we can't have face-to-face activities within the social Friends Tea Houses. And the event that we're having today, this lovely event, it was supposed originally to take place face-to-face, but we wouldn't have had probably Adrian. So thank you to Adrian once again. And one of the beauties of digital cooperation is actually this opportunity to meet people from around the world in the span of an hour and exchange ideas. So through the Friends Tea Houses, we are trying to introduce intervention into the informal curriculum. Remember the definition of internationalization at home, interventions into both formal and informal curriculum for students by staying within the domestic environment, so their own community back home. So I hope I managed to sort of add some more highlights to what we're doing in this project. Thank you.
Yes, so in fact, I think you answered the question. I also had another question about these, the sort of target for these courses on intercultural skills, and I think it's very much on students. But I think you mentioned that you also want to sort of develop these skills within academic and administrative staff in the universities, because I'm thinking that could be an important tool, in further developing international cooperation between, well, universities or other educational organizations, if the actual teachers and the administrators have these skills as well.
Maybe I can answer on that. We have basically 4 sessions of webinar for staff, administrative staff, and also academics way back in 2019. Yeah, we have 4 sessions where the facilitator is from our partner institution in Europe. So we have like 4 sessions being done on how to formalize intercultural studies in formal curriculum, in our own curriculum in the universities. We also had a session on intercultural diversity. Yeah, what it means. You know, a lot of people think that it's only the receival of international students and stuff, but it's more beyond that as well. Also, our home away from home program, one of the work packages that we have one section for the students. We also have another section where we train our staff on how to handle the tea house. But of course, unfortunately, it also has to go online due to the pandemic. It is supposed to be organized in Thailand, if I remember correctly, Christina. It's supposed to be handled, hosted by our partners in Thailand, where we have representatives from each university, I think 2 or 3, that will be trained on how to manage these tea houses within our own institution. It is like an extension of the international offices. Yeah, for our institution, for example, we don't have this extension. So because we are part of this project, we have to create this special division that looks after the activities for internationalization. We have to do strategies within our vision and mission of the institution. So yeah, it does include trainings for academic staff and also administrative staff on how to internationalize the institution, the curriculum, and so on.
Yes, thank you, Ronald, for mentioning the webinars. And also we have the European Higher Education in the World face-to-face staff training that took place in June 2019. And on top of that, staff members of the 12 universities were supposed to together at institutional level once they've returned back home, and not only present the concept of internationalization at home to their peers at the university, but also try to design together a internationalization at home action plan. And all 12 universities have done this at the beginning of the project at an early stage, and at the end of the project we are all supposed to revisit those documents, update them, upscale them, these action plans, and ensure that they actually get recognized and become part of the institutional strategies for internationalization. So there is also an attempt to approach internationalization at home through developing leadership skills, and also through strategic development at the universities involved, the 12 universities. I see we've got quite a lot of friends from the Philippines present. I hope that we have also some of the colleagues, I mean the peers, maybe students, and also brave to speak up, but if any of our colleagues in the Philippines are here, I mean staff members, I see Ed Lopez, for instance. She's one of the project team members, the key project team members. Ed, if you can hear me, maybe you want to also sort of shed light on your experience at TUC with the project.
Oh, yes, Miss Christina, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Our internet connection is not that stable, so please forgive if I cannot show my face as of the moment. So for me, as part of the University of Cebu, I am very glad that we have this kind of program, because truly this really helped us strengthen the internationalization at home. And the students right now are also very excited to know that we go beyond like Europe, because before we used to just have activities just within us. So we're very, very happy and we're very proud that we are part of this program. And I also agree to Sir Ronald when he said a while ago that the timing of the MOOC launching is really great, because that was also the time when we have hard lockdowns in the Philippines, and MOOC actually helped us to really manage well our class. So thank you so much to Erasmus Plus, and of course to Christina and the team from VUM. Thank you very much. I guess that's it. It truly helped us to shape what we have right now in the internationalization at home program of University of Cebu. Thank you for this chance.
Thank you, Ed. And so one final remark on my end is that actually the timing of the piloting session of the MOOC was planned, like, 2 years ago in 2018 at the bid development phase. And of course, back then nobody would have known that we would end up with this pandemic. And in one way or another, as already mentioned, the piloting stage of the MOOC coincided with the first lockdowns across the world. So thanks to this development, at the piloting stage only, we had something like 3.5, almost 4 times more students who successfully completed the MOOC compared to our original plans and indicators. I mean, COVID did affect actually the project in a good way as well, by very much increasing the number of beneficiaries at the piloting stage. So we were planning to have something like 1,200 students to successfully complete the MOOC at the piloting stage only, and we ended up with something like 4,000, over 4,000. So yes, digital learning and virtual mobility have been always part of the concept of internationalization at home, and in this project and in these times we're living in, it has also become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Edsa, for that sharing. Mr. Adrian, do you have any final remark before we conclude this session today?
No, I just wanted to mention one aspect which perhaps I didn't really mention explicitly enough, and that is the objective of the Erasmus Plus program to be more inclusive. I think when we were discussing the new program here in Europe with member states, everyone agreed it was a fantastic program. I mean, there was unanimous support for continuing, and indeed expanding the budget, at least inside Europe, for this program at a time when budget discussions were very difficult. This was one of the few things that people agreed on. The only real criticism of Erasmus Plus was that it did not reach far enough, meaning that in fact some people sort of claimed it was a little bit elitist. It wasn't reaching out to the people who perhaps needed these skills most of all. Now, you can look at digital in 2 ways. You can look at it as an answer to this, in that you can reach out to a lot more people. Although, there is a proviso here that we don't want virtual and digital to become a sort of class B type of mobility, that you can have mobility is the first class treatment, and digital is like the second class treatment. We want to find some way of making the program more accessible for other people. So that's why, for example, we want to have new institutions in the program. So we mean inclusive in terms of the organizations that take part, from smaller universities, from less developed countries especially, but we also want to try and make sure that minorities or there is more diversity in the type of individuals who benefit from the program. So it's interesting to see what you are doing on that front with the reach out to local communities, and this real focus on internationalization at home is not just inside your university. It's to try and reach out, because this, I think, goes hand in hand with what we're also trying to do in Europe, which is look at the role of the university in the future. How does it engage with local communities as well as other academic partners? So it's that's why I'm interested in the way that you can sort of, as Christina said, you can exploit the results of your program with a wider range of people.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Adrian, for that commentary. Yeah, on our part as the project partner for Friends, we will ensure all the project results are exploited. Yeah, and hopefully at the end of the project next year, we can provide reports on the achievements to the EU as well. And yeah, again, thank you very much for being able to spend your time, early morning in Brussels, I believe. And I don't see His Excellency Michalis Rokas. I think he has exited the room. Thank you to him as well for doing the opening remarks. We are also very grateful to be able to get connected with the new ambassador, because the previous ambassador left, and His Excellency Michalis is a new one for Malaysia, and I feel like this is the session of reporting the interim results of the project. Yeah, and again, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Adrian, and also Christina. Christina is currently in her summer vacation, but she still attended this session. I believe this is one of the few last session of the virtual Intercultural Festival. This is supposed to be a physical event at the university, but since now here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, we are still in lockdown, and based on the government report, we do not know when exactly we are able to go back to the school. So this semester is the semester where we don't really see our students physically since the start of the semester, which is in May. Yeah, we hopefully it ends at the end of maybe August, hopefully, because the government is trying to vaccinate as many people as possible. Yeah, and again, thank you very much, Christina, all our participants from the Philippines, from Bhutan, also from Malaysia within our institution, Berjaya, and hope to have another fruitful discussion next year. Maybe we can invite Mr. Adrian, because at the moment we are planning for a conference, but hopefully it would be physical. Yeah, one of the exploitation of the project is to have an internationalization conference, somewhere around March next year, based on the calendar. So hopefully that can be executed as well. Any last word, Mr. Adrian, before we end this session?
No, just to thank you for this for the interesting presentation of what you're doing in the project. I mean, I'm also keen that we share these results inside Europe, and I'm also interested to know, you know, how I can work with my other colleagues who deal more with the intra-European cooperation on your activities on internationalization at home. I think this is going to be an important part of the new program to try and extend its reach. So thank you for that. It's been very instructive for me, and I wish you all the best. Thanks also for, you know, continuing to work in these difficult conditions. It has been difficult for everyone, but you have really, you know, been flexible enough to make your project as effective as it can be in these difficult times. So thank you for all your efforts there.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. And maybe to end this session, we can take a group photo. If you can open your camera. Yeah, Christina would need this for documentation. Yeah. Yes, if you can open your camera. Yeah. Maybe some of our colleagues are not able to do so due to internet connection, but yes. Okay, ready everyone? 1, 2, 3. Participation, and hope to see you soon in our next activity. And thank you for spending time with us today. And we will go through the other room. Yeah, I have sent a link to all of you. The other room will be a cooking demonstration, yeah, on local food. So something very light to end our first virtual intercultural festival. Thank you very much, everyone, and take care. Stay safe. Bye.